Hey, BookTube Sean here, and today's video is going to be about the Shirley Jackson Awards. I was actually intending to film a different video for today, and then I saw a Twitter post from Sadie Reads Them All, who's a bookstagrammer, and she was posting about the announcement of the nominees for the Shirley Jackson Award. I had never heard of the Shirley Jackson Award. So I looked into it a bit, and the description right here that I have is, in recognition of the legacy of Shirley Jackson's writing and with permission from the author's estate, the Shirley Jackson Awards Incorporated has been established for outstanding achievement in the literature of psychological suspense, horror, and the dark fantastic, which is right up my alley. And I've, was looking at some of the past winners and stuff and the nominees for this year, and especially in the novel category, it almost seems like it might be, I might enjoy this a little bit better than the Stokers. I'm still going to read the first novel, Stokers, but in the best novel category, the Stokers. So that's why I didn't start with the best novel category. It's a lot of repetition of the same authors over and over: Stephen King, Joe Hill, Peter Straub, Robert McCammon. There's a lot of repetition of authors that have won the best novel category. That's why I decided to start with first novel, so that I could get into some people I wasn't familiar with. But I'm really liking the look of the Shirley Jackson Awards, and I started thinking about things and looking up the nominees, and kind of wanting to, and this is crazy because I already got a lot to read right now, but I kind of want to read the nominees for novel and novella before the winners are announced on July 15th, or at least try. See how many I can get to. So that's what this video is going to be about, is this year's nominees for Best Novel and Best Novella for this year's Shirley Jackson Awards. It says the 2017 Shirley Jackson Awards. So like the Stokers, it sounds like they call the award the year before for the books that came out the year before. So let's get into it. I'm going to show the book and try and read the description, and hope this video doesn't end up too long. I actually have my tablet here, so I don't have to keep looking over at my computer monitor, and I can show you the covers on my tablet, and we're going to see how this goes. If you're seeing this version of the video, then it went all right, and I didn't have to re-record. The first one I actually have in my possession because I just went to the library and picked it up, is Ill Will by Dan Chowan. I'm not sure. I possibly could have looked up how to pronounce that, but Chowan. And this is: we are always telling a story to ourselves about ourselves. This is one of the little mantras Dustin Tillman likes to share with his patients, and it's meant to be reassuring. But what if that story is a lie? A psychologist in suburban Cleveland, Dustin is drifting through his 40s when he hears the news. His adopted brother, Rusty, is being released from prison. 30 years ago, Rusty received a life sentence for the massacre of Dustin's parents, aunt, and uncle. The trial came to epitomize the 1980s hysteria over satanic cults. Despite the lack of physical evidence, the jury believed the outlandish accusations Dustin and his cousin made against Rusty. Now, after DNA analysis has overturned the conviction, Dustin braces for a reckoning. Meanwhile, one of Dustin's patients has been plying him with stories of the drowning deaths of a string of drunk college boys. At first, Dustin dismisses his patient's suggestions that a serial killer is at work as paranoid thinking, but as the two embark on an amateur investigation, Dustin starts to believe that there's more to the deaths than coincidence. Soon he becomes obsessed, crossing all professional boundaries and putting his own family in harm's way. From one of today's most renowned practitioners of literary suspense, Ill Will is an intimate thriller about the failures of memory and the perils of self-deception. In Dan Cheon's nimble, chilling prose, the past looms over the present, turning each into a haunted place. That sounds really good. And I've never heard of this author before, so that's exciting. I'm gonna get into some people I've never heard of before here. So that's the first one nominated for novel. The second one, we're going to see how this goes, is The Bone Mother by David Demchuk. And let me pull up a description. Oh, shit. I just went to the wrong thing. So that's how this is working so far. One more back. Okay, The Bone Mother by David Demchuk. 3 neighboring villages on the Ukrainian-Romanian border are the final refuge for the last of the mythical creatures of Eastern Europe. Now, on the eve of the war that may eradicate their kind, and with the ruthless night police descending upon their sanctuary, they tell their stories and confront their destinies. Eerie and unsettling like the best fairy tales, these incisor-sharp portraits of ghosts, witches, sirens, and seers, and the mortals who live at their side and in their thrall will chill your marrow and tear at your heart. That sounds really cool. I'm excited about that one. I've heard really good things about this one, too. I actually have heard of this book, and I've heard really good things. The next one is The Changeling by Victor Laval, and I have read this one. So that's one down already. Yay. And I've talked about this in February. I talked about this because I read it in January. Or I might have talked about it in late January. I don't remember. But I read it. I was going to try to do Russell and Ink and Paper blogs around the world. His all around the world book club that he's doing, and he was reading one book from each continent, excluding Antarctica, because there's really nothing coming out of Antarctica for the first 6 months of the year. I read this one and I kind of fell off. But this is a kind of urban fairy tale retelling, and it's hard to talk about without giving too much away. Let me pull up a description because it'll take me forever to try and summarize it. But I enjoyed it. It was not as good as I was hoping it would be, but it was all right. But Victor Laval's writing was fantastic. There was just some things about the book that didn't sit well with me. But when Apollo Kagwa's father disappeared, all he left his son were strange recurring dreams and a box of books stamped with the word improbabilia. Now Apollo is a father himself, and as he and his wife Emma are settling into their new lives as parents, exhaustion and anxiety start to take their toll. Apollo's old dreams return, and Emma begins acting odd, irritable, and disconnected from their new baby boy. At first, Emma seems to be exhibiting signs of postpartum depression, but it quickly becomes clear that her troubles go even deeper. Before Apollo can do anything to help, Emma commits a horrifying act beyond any parent's comprehension and vanishes seemingly into thin air. Thus begins Apollo's odyssey through a world he only thought he understood, to find a wife and child who are nothing like he'd imagined. His quest, which begins when he meets a mysterious stranger who claims to have information about Emma's whereabouts, takes him to a forgotten island, a graveyard full of secrets, a forest where immigrant legends still live, and finally back to a place he thought he had lost forever. This was... it felt almost like two different books, honestly. There was the first part, it was really good. Victor Laval's writing is fantastic. And then when the event with Emma happens, it like takes this sharp turn. And this is where it takes its dark turn. And it feels like an entirely different novel for the last half of the book. And I didn't know anything about fairy tale myths of the Changeling. But once I did find out about it, I realized that the title of the book gives away the mystery. So it's kind of unfortunate. The title's unfortunate if you know the myths. So anyway, that's the third book. The fourth one is The Hole by Hee Young Pyun. And this one is... I haven't heard of this one either, so this is exciting. More. In this tense, gripping novel by a star of Korean literature, Oh-hee has woken from a coma after causing a devastating car accident that took his wife's life and left him paralyzed and badly disfigured. His caretaker is his mother-in-law, a widow grieving the loss of her only child. Oh-hee is neglected and left alone in his bed. His world shrinks to the room he lies in, and his memories of his troubled relationship with his wife, a sensitive, intelligent woman who found all of her life goals thwarted except for one, cultivating the garden in front of their house. But soon Oki notices his mother-in-law in the abandoned garden, uprooting what his wife had worked so hard to plant and obsessively digging larger and larger holes. When asked, she answers only that she is finishing what her daughter started. A bestseller in Korea, The Whole is superbly crafted and deeply unnerving novel about the horrors of isolation and neglect in all of its banal and brutal forms. As Ogi desperately searches for a way to escape, he discovers the difficult truth about his wife and the toll their life together took on her. That sounds really intriguing. I'm definitely interested in reading that and learning about the mysteries. The fifth and final novel nominated is, and that's going to be hard. Okay, let's angle that. The Night Ocean by Paul Lafarge. Again, I've seen that cover, but I hadn't really noticed what the title was or who the author was. So everything, I've heard of The Bone Mother, and besides The Changeling, the other three books, completely new to me. So, from the award-winning author and New Yorker contributor, a riveting novel about secrets and scandals, psychiatry, and pulp fiction inspired by the lives of H.P. Lovecraft and his circle. Marina Willett, M.D., has a problem. Her husband Charlie has become obsessed with H.P. Lovecraft, in particular with one episode in the legendary horror writer's life. In the summer of 1934, the old gent lived for 2 months with a gay teenage fan named Robert Barlow at Barlow's family home in Central Florida. What were the two of them up to? Were they friends or something more? Just when Charlie thinks he solved the puzzle, a new scandal erupts, and he disappears. The police say it's suicide. Marina is a psychiatrist, and she doesn't believe them. A tour de force of storytelling, The Night Ocean follows the lives of some extraordinary people. Lovecraft, the most influential American horror writer of the 20th century, whose stories continue to win new acolytes, even as his racist views provoke new critics. Barlow, a seminal scholar of Mexican culture who killed himself after being blackmailed for his homosexuality, and who collaborated with Lovecraft on the beautiful story The Night Ocean. His student, future beat writer William S. Burroughs, and Elsie Spinks, a kindly Canadian appliance salesman and science fiction fan, the only person who knows the origin of the Erotonomicon, purported to be the intimate diary of Lovecraft himself. As a heartbroken Marina follows her missing husband's trail in an attempt to learn the truth, the novel moves across the decades and along the length of the continent, from a remote Ontario town through New York and Florida to Mexico City. The Night Ocean is about love and deception, about the way that stories earn our trust and betray it. So that kind of sounds like I might want to read the story, Lovecraft's story, The Night Ocean, first, which I have, so that's not a problem. But this one I can get on audio on Scribe. Everything, I've read The Changeling, I have Ill Will right here, and then everything else I can get on Scribed. So that's cool. Now, the novellas. There's 6 of these, and I actually already own 3 of them. 3 of them are Tor.com novellas that I own. The first one is Fever Dream by Samantha Schweblin, and I know a little bit about this one. I know it involves a young boy visiting a woman, and it's kind of a head trippy thing. A young woman named Amanda lies dying in a rural hospital clinic. A boy named David sits beside her. She's not his mother, he's not her child, but together they tell a haunting story of broken souls, toxins, and the power and desperation of family. This one I've been wanting to read for a while. I've heard some really trippy things about this one. And I've said before, I like weird. So the second one is Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. This one I own. And I actually just heard a really good review of this. I think Stephanie's read this too. I think she enjoyed it too. But Blackfleet author Stephen Graham Jones brings readers a spine-tingling Native American horror novella. Walking through his own house at night, a 15-year-old thinks he sees another person stepping through a doorway. Instead of the people who could be there, his mother or his brother, the figure reminds him of his long-gone father, who died mysteriously before his family left the reservation. When he follows it, he discovers his house is bigger and deeper than he knew. The house is the kind of wrong place where you can lose yourself and find things you'd rather not have. Over the course of a few nights, the boy tries to map out his house in an effort that puts his little brother in the worst danger and puts him in the position to save them at terrible cost. Like I said, I've heard some really good things about this one, and I own it, so I'm excited to get to it. Next one is The Asylum of Dr. Caligari by James Morrow, and my light sucks, I'm sorry. This isn't going as well as I thought with the glare on my screen, but this one I'm curious about because I know the Dr. Caligari movie a little bit, so this must be a take on that. In the summer of 1914, as the world teeters on the brink of the Great War, a callow-American painter, Francis Wyndham, arrives at a renowned European insane asylum where he begins offering art therapy under the auspices of Alessandro Caligari, sinister psychiatrist, maniacal artist, alleged sorcerer. And determined to turn the impending cataclysm to his financial advantage, Dr. Caligari will, for a price, allow governments to parade their troops past his masterpiece, a painting so mesmerizing it can incite entire regiments to rush headlong into battle. The Asylum of Dr. Caligari is a timely tale that is by turns funny and erotic, tender and bayonet sharp, but ultimately emerges as a love letter to that mysterious, indispensable thing called art. This doesn't say anything about... Oh, there we go. Spun from the 1920 silent film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Okay, so it is kind of inspired by the old silent film, which I have seen part of. I haven't never seen the whole thing. I might have to look into that. The next one is The Lamb Will Slaughter the Lion by Margaret Killjoy. And you've seen me haul this one recently. This is a Tor.com novella, and I included it in a Kindle haul that I did on a My Week in Books that was short on haul portion. Searching for clues about her best friend's mysterious suicide, Danielle ventures to the squatter utopian town of Freedom, Iowa, and witnesses a protector spirit, in the form of a blood-red three-antlered deer, begin to turn on its summoners. She and her new friends have to act fast if they're going to save the town or get out alive. I had seen a Twitter post promoting this and the second book, and it sounded interesting, so I went ahead and it was cheap on Kindle, so I picked it up. So I actually almost read it a couple weeks ago because I was kind of feeling it, but I never got to it. The next one is The Lost Daughter Collective by Lindsay Drager. Again, this one I have not heard of at all. At least the Asylum of Dr. Caligari. I was familiar with the basis, but this one is entirely new to me. A scholar of risk studies warns his ice sculpting daughter of the risk involved in girlhood in this satirical novel that aims to collapse the distinction between history and allegory. Using bedtime stories as cautionary tales, a risk scholar relays the story of a fabled group of fathers coping with dead and missing daughters while or perhaps before or perhaps after the self-help group known as the Fathers of Lost Daughters collectively narrate the myth of the ice girl and her father without risks. Caught in a strange loop that, like Escher's drawing hands, confuses the line between reality and artifice, folklore and scholarship, far past and near future, the Lost Daughter Collective illustrates how the stories we receive are shaped by those who do the telling. When the girl who sculpts ice sacrifices everything to send a final message to her father through her art, and when one lost girl is revealed to not be dead or missing, but a daughter who has transitioned into a son, fathers are faced with the reality that their children's play is anything but. A story about the complex relationship between fathers and daughters, as well as the ethics of storytelling, The Lost Daughter Collective is a gothic fairy tale fusing the fabulism at work in Donald Barthelme and Ben Marcus with the brevity and language play of Dickie Dorconet and Jenny Oldfield to raise questions about agency and authorship in our narratives. Whose stories do we trust? Why do we trust them? What happens when we are forced to believe one story over another? That sounds intriguing. I'm interested in that. That'll probably be low on my list to read, so that if I don't get to one, that'll probably be one of the ones I don't get to, but I will eventually, because it does sound intriguing. And the last one is The Murders of Molly Southborne by Tade Thompson. Yeah, Tade Thompson. This is another Tor.com novella. I own this one. I had actually pre-ordered this one. I saw this on Thomas at SFF 180's Mailbag Monday one day, and I liked the description so much that I immediately pre-ordered it. The rule is simple. Don't bleed. For as long as Molly Southborne can remember, she's been watching herself die. Whenever she bleeds, another Molly is born, identical to her in every way and intent on her destruction. Molly knows every way to kill herself, but she also knows that as long as she survives, she'll be hunted. No matter how well she follows the rules, eventually the Mollys will find her. Can Molly find a way to stop the tide of blood, or will she meet her end at the hand of a girl who looks just like her? That sounded very almost like Orphan Blackish to me, so I was really intrigued by that. And that is it. That is the novel and novella categories of the Shirley Jackson Awards that I would like to try and read at least most of before the winners are announced on July 17th. I want to mention too that in the edited anthology category, Tales from a Talking Board from Word Horde Press is nominated, which I'm slowly working on reading that. So because I got that from them for review, so that's cool that to see that. And single author collection there, She Said Destroy by Nadia Bulkin is nominated. So it's cool to see Word Horde nominated for a couple of categories. A nice indie horror publisher. Or small press horror publisher nominated for this award. So yeah, I'm really interested in this award. And this was, like I said, this was not the video I was going to film today. I was going to film a favorites video. So I'm still going to film that, but that will end up happening next week. I want to do I enjoy watching favorites videos. Things people have been enjoying besides books, and I kind of decided I wanted to do one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover some things that have been favorites, some things I've been into from the beginning of the year up until the end of April. And then starting next month, I will do a monthly favorites video, especially if you guys like seeing it. But yeah, I just want to let you guys know some more stuff that I'm into of my eclectic nature. Besides books, and let you into a little bit more of what I'm enjoying. So, like I said, because I like watching those videos, so I'm gonna go ahead and make one. But that is it. Thank you to all my subscribers. I've had a little influx of subscribers over the past week. So welcome to all my new subscribers, and I will see you all in my next video.